Okay, guys, it's 8:30. Do I need to do, oh, I don't have my folder with me. Do we need to do, does everybody call out their name who is here so I can write it down and we can take attendance?
We could do that at the end when everybody, when we know when everybody's logged in.
Okay. Well, then I guess I will call to order our Farragut Business Alliance meeting Thursday, April 16th at 8:31. Has anybody had any questions or time to review the approval of minutes that Jim did?
I'm going to move to approve.
Mayor Williams, second.
I'm sorry, that was Louise Pavlin, move to approve.
Louise Pavlin approved.
I've got it.
Oh, you got it? You're taking notes? Okay. Mayor, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Do we need to do our little call out your name thing again for the I, Louise?
I
Please
think,
do.
yes, I think that's the official thing. Louise Pavlin, yes.
Mayor Williams, yes.
Michelle Austin, yes.
Jeremy Kendrick, yes.
David Purvis, that's a yes
Yes.
for you.
Yes.
David Smoke,
Doesn't vote.
Get a vote on that one, sorry.
He's
okay.
non-voting.
I'm just going down through the list here. I don't know who
Morrison needs-
owner is. Tony Cox,
Yes.
okay. Candace Viox, yes. I don't know who user 2, 3, or 4 are, so I'm assuming they're not voting. Is there anyone I forgot?
Kevin Morrison's online too.
Yeah.
Okay, see him. Kevin Morrison? I don't see anybody there.
I think not. There's a few people on mute is what I'm seeing here. So you're not hearing them talk.
Hey, Candace, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Voted yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I have forgotten? Okay. Minutes have been approved.
I'm just putting down unanimous anyway.
Okay, just didn't know if you had to ask everybody. Next, we're moving on to the financials.
Oh, that'd be me.
That would be David.
Yeah. After reviewing financials, our cash position is pretty good. We're as of yesterday, I looked at the bank. We were at about 26,000 positive in the bank account. We've issued a draw under our MOU with the town, so that should be forthcoming sometime in the next couple of weeks. So we really don't have any other expenses going out right now except Steve's pay. We did incur a larger loss than previous comparative time frame for last year. That's all due to more advertising for Shop Farragut. So things are looking okay other than, our events. We don't have anything really going on, any revenue coming in other than the town grant. So, but I think we're okay now.
Did we ever get that $10,000 that we applied for?
Steve?
No, no, that application is in progress, but the way it works is you get $1,000 per employee as an advance during the period of January 31st through the first month of so whoever was on payroll that period, that's who you can get up to $1,000 per employee. I got a notice that our application was in progress, and and that's where it stands. So if anything, it's only $1,000 in advance. It would, after that, you have to apply and go through a bank to get additional loans if we need or want to go that direction. But I'm not I'm not looking at this program for anything, really.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions about our finances? I'm sure we're gonna start talking about our cash flow and events here in a minute, so everybody's good?
Okay, somebody move to accept?
Mayor Williams, so moved.
All in favor?
Mayor
Need a
Williams,
second.
Steven seconds.
I can't.
I'll second. Tony Cox seconds.
Okay, all in favor to approve minutes?
Aye.
Financials.
Or financials?
Aye.
Do we need to do a roll call? I think.
yes. Mayor Williams, yes.
Vice
Tony
Mayor
Cox,
Poplin,
yes.
yes.
Dennis
Kevin Morrison, yes.
Viox. Candace Viox, yes.
Jeremy Kendrick, yes.
David Purvis, yes.
Michelle Austin, yes.
Candace, did you get me? Tony Cox, yes.
Heard. Tony Cox, yes. Maybe. Is that everyone?
I think that's all voting members.
I think that's everybody.
Just for clarity, it looks like we're missing Jim Nixon, Hurt Ligdis, and Darren Talent. Just for clarity.
And I voted yes.
Who is that?
That's
Jim
her.
Nixon is here.
Jim Nixon's here too? Okay.
I voted yes for everything, but I don't know whether it came through or not.
Okay, so Jim Nixon is 4, and Herc, are you there too?
I am here and I voted yes.
Okay, thank you. Herc is user 2 and Jim Nixon is user 4. Thank you.
Is Darren Talent here?
Oh, we may have lost Darren.
Okay.
That's quorum vote, so we can move on.
Yeah.
Forum vote. Just recall it again.
No, you're good. We can move on, Candace.
Okay. So now we're at the content committee with Tony Cox. Tony, you're on mute.
Everybody hear me now?
There you are. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Not going to go back over the social media since we just reported that. Thought I would touch base on our town sampler. Pulled 116 entries to kind of review where we are with that. Out of those 116 entries, 49% of those 57 entries are from 37934. So that's probably to be expected just from familiarity with the area, with our businesses as well. 14% are from 37932. And then an additional 14% are from 37922. Other than that, we have zip codes 37748, which I believe 37748 is down in. I'm drawing a blank now. I can't recall where that is. 37762 is represented. 63 is represented. Then we have 72 from the Lenore City area that's also represented. 37830. I believe 37830 was down close to Vonore and Madisonville, maybe. Anybody have an idea? Okay. The median age of our entries is 52. The average age also is 52. So, and that actually surprises me a little bit because if I'm not mistaken, a lot of our winners have been in the 34 to 38 range. Is that correct, Steve?
Well, until last month,
Okay.
we had a retired lady last month, which it is not it's not uncommon, but it's they have been skewing younger with children lately.
Yeah. So, all in all, I do think we need to figure out how to expand out a little bit further. But I still think that 37934 is just going to be our dominant zip code because they're familiar with Shop Farragut and they're familiar with the program because we've continued to promote it quite heavily in the area. So
yeah, it's really just the newspaper and our social media.
Right.
So unless I start paying ads to get it out farther,
Right.
And
well,
I'm not sure.
And we have it running constantly on. Steve, on WFIV as well, which is a Farragut radio station. So that would make sense.
Are we still running our ads right now?
On the Farragut radio station, the ads have stopped. That was all tied into the sports programming.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those have stopped. The only thing we have going is what we do as a committed service to the community, which is really promoting town sampler program.
I don't know if people heard, but it ended last Friday. But the previous 2 weeks to that, I had Pete Michaels doing a generic Shop Farragut ad with his traffic in the mornings on his system. It was just Shop Farragut online and curbside, and directing people to the Shop Farragut website to let people know that we have stores that are open. So I'd like to do that again, probably in the next couple of weeks. And I'm also exploring a branding type ad for Via Media, which is our TDS cable and WOW cable systems here in Knoxville area. Just because it's cost effective. I can get about 600 to 1,000 15-second ads that hit cable TV people, for $1,000. So, and that's just Shop Farragut, just to help push people know that we're open. I've been tagging a lot of our social media with online and curbside. So
I have nothing else to report, so I'm finished.
Okay, now I can talk. Thank you, Tony. Now to the director's report from Steve. I know that the task force met yesterday at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I think we did. So what are the COVID-19 updates that we need to share with everybody?
yeah,
and everybody needs to mute.
after we do some.
Everybody needs to mute so we can hear you. Okay, take it away, Steve.
The COVID-19 updates, really, if you've been watching, and I'm going to thank Mayor Williams for his consistent updates, that the stay-in-place, stay-at-home order is until April 30th, which disappointed some of our stores, especially our salons and barbershop folks. Of course, Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs has just released his plan to start reopening things. And if you haven't got a copy of that, let me know. I can send that to you. It's a a pretty concise document, but then again, the governor probably has some say over what the final thing will be. And next week, April 27th, is when the temporary sign ordinance amendment will expire. I've sent out a message about a day ago to our my Farragut business list, and reminding people they still have another week to put up their temporaries under the new conditions, the free and no application conditions. And that if they'd want to period, which is advisable, let our know it's for to them few which businesses are open, but then again, it's up to them to put out signs. It's really something that the town and they have the ability to do, but it's up to the businesses too. And that's really the only updates I have, and let anyone else has a comment.
Is everybody having a lot of trouble hearing Steve right now?
Yes.
Steve,
Yeah.
I think
I'm not
your
hearing
internet
anything.
connection-
Everybody.
Steve, I think your internet connection is a
Oh.
little slow. You may want to turn your video off, and that may help
Yeah.
speed up to where you can speak a little clearer through the WebEx. See if that helps some. I think we missed most of what you just said.
I'm hearing you.
I was unable to hear any
Oh,
of it.
sorry.
I heard the beginning and then I heard, and that's about it.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Much better, Steve.
Much better. Okay, I've got the video off. Well, if people wanted to get a copy of the Knox Mayor's reopening plan, that's available right now. Of course, the governor will probably have something to say about that, but it's in progress. I'll just repeat a few things real quick. The stay-at-home orders till the 30th, which disappointed some of our local businesses, especially the barbershops and salons and personal service people. So they're just grumbling, waiting to open up. April 27th, the temporary sign ordinance expires. I let our local businesses know in a email a day or so ago that if they'd like to extend it, which would be nice, through the month of May, that they need to let the Board of Aldermen and Mayor know as soon as possible to get it on the agenda, to get that extended. I was copied on a few responses. I don't know how many people take advantage of it, but it's really up to the local businesses. And that's the three areas I covered there. Now we're on to the Taste of Farragut. Everybody good? Taste of Farragut, the task force met twice while we were gone, and yesterday came up with a plan to move the whole festival to October 4th, which is a Sunday, and do it on a Sunday afternoon from 4 o'clock to 7 p.m. I'm going to explore the new Avery House corner to see if it's doable over there. a backup position with Kroger parking lot. Sue Stool yesterday sent over a kind of the artist site plan drawing of that area as it's envisioned to be completed. Hopefully it's done by October 4th. So we're hoping that works out. With this date, I can start telling the people who were interested that where we're going, and then start soliciting and getting sponsors lined up and everything else. So at least gives me something to work with right now. Any comments? Everybody hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Audio is much better, Steve.
Okay. Health and wellness is still on track now for June 13, and I haven't seen a reason yet to look at another date. So it's just there, and as we move forward, things seem to be getting better, and so I don't think there's any reason to mess with that at this moment. And I think Tony did a nice job on the town sampler. So that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to get done this month. So ready to move on to David's report. Unless there's any question.
I have a question before you move on, if that's okay. With regard to the mayor's order and then the governor's order, when it comes out, is the mayor's order enforceable? How is it going to? How would they enforce that? Is it too early to even ask that question? I understand that there's suggestions. Our gym has been really proactive about how we're sanitizing everything. And it's difficult to limit the number of people in that building, although I don't know that it ever gets that crowded, sometimes around dinner time. I want to know how they plan on enforcing that. David, do you have any direction on that?
Louise, Bill Lee sent a letter yesterday or the day before about enforcement, and I think that will set the stage for the tone of enforcement locally. He basically said that it's still a pandemic and things are crazy, so the tone should be by persuasion and not necessarily coercion, unless there's a blatant, purposeful, violation, in which case, after you've tried several times to get someone to comply voluntarily, then you could take more extreme action, such as an actual citation. That was the gist of his kind of thoughts on it.
All right, thank you, Trevor. I appreciate that.
Yeah, they're authorized to take action, but it should be voluntary. We should try to work with people, and that very much models how we in Farragut think about it. We try to get people to do things on their own, and then if they won't, well, sometimes it comes to a citation.
Okay, thank you.
And I was made aware yesterday that the city of Knoxville are issuing citations to businesses. Do you believe that Glenn Jacobs is going to take the same stance on issuing citations to businesses, or is that just what the city mayor's doing?
Mayor, from what I've been told, that's her thing. I think Mayor Jacobs is going to comply with what was sent out by Governor Lee concerning law enforcement. I think that's going to be the stance, what I was told.
I think the key thing for everybody is that when the governor comes out with whatever recommendations he comes out with or orders, there's two big differences there. If he orders it, then that means everybody has to comply. If he recommends it, which is what he talked about with schools yesterday, it was a forceful recommendation, but it was still a recommendation. Then he wants you to comply, but each local area could come up with their own plan. And I think that's what Mayor Jacobs has kind of given to the governor as an idea. Of course, if the governor lets us have our own way, then that's probably what we're going to be looking at from a county level. And of course, then we would look at that, and I'm sure the board would want to mirror what we could here locally in Farragut as well. Because what happens is the health department ultimately has the authority to kind of open or close businesses based on the health recommendations that they and the powers that they have. And that's based through the county, obviously.
Well, one thing that frustrated me is Billy took so long to actually get the kahunas to do something. Either extend it or let it expire April 14th. He didn't share anything with any of the businesses the Friday before. So is this something that with Glenn Jacobs' recommendations that I got yesterday, thank you, Mayor, by the way, that I can assume I'm going to be able to operate May 1st with the 50% guidelines, Louise can open, that we can assume that's going to happen until we hear otherwise? Or are we just gonna roll the dice and maybe we'll hear something April 30th, maybe we won't, maybe we can't open till May 15th, maybe we can open May 1st. Like, when the hell are these people gonna make a decision?
And just adding to her frustration, I agree, because we were ready. We had a staff meeting called. We were ready to open up the following day. And an hour before we're ready to have this staff meeting, he decides to close for another till April 30th. And it's very frustrating. And I know that you guys aren't the rule makers, but I'm just telling you from a small business perspective, it is very frustrating that I look at our numbers in Knox County as far as disease. More people have died from the flu than from COVID-19. And we are handling things responsibly at where we are. Candace was doing the same in her store too. It is very frustrating that this one size fits all coming down from Nashville. It's at April 30th. He needs to give it back to the mayors, so that the county mayors, so that they can decide on their own. Okay, we're doing good here. We're going to take this slow. This is ridiculous. I'm telling you, if April 30th he comes out with another extension, we may be, what is a civil disobedience, because
Tyranny.
This is ridiculous.
Tyranny.
Well, that's what I feel like we're under. I'm tired of yard work, quite frankly. So that's my 10 cents. I know none of you can do anything about it.
Well, there's rallies at the State House right now.
Oh, I'm sure the Knox City mayor is going to arrest everybody down there. I'd be careful.
So this is Kevin. I'll kind of give my 2 cents from the health side. So it's obviously changing constantly. I will say what we've been told is pretty much the April 30th extension was really due to the recommendation coming out from President Trump. That's actually the guidelines. CDC, he's following CDC guidelines on that. If we see a downward trend in the curve, I feel good about April 30th. If we still see overall numbers growing nationally, then no, we will continue to see that extension in place, is the way I see it. So that's kind of what we're expecting. We're expecting right now to open up operations May 4th, the weekend or the Monday after April 30th, and then follow suit. But again, if we don't see a downward trend in COVID-19 cases nationwide, there will likely be further action to be taken.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, so I guess we were able to rant for a minute. Thank you, Louise, because I'm about ready to hurt somebody myself. I guess we're now at the Town of Farragut report with David Smoke. Is there any other issues or questions anybody has for Stephen about the director's report, Town Sampler? Can we move on?
The only other kind of local business for us, I was curious, it's kind of more on the financial related. I know we have 26,000 cash right now. I guess without any kind of events outside of the expo on the horizon, I guess how many days cash on hand do we have? What do we see as far as that running out? Is the Farragut grant still in play? Do we need to do anything different on our kind of fixed expenses that we have?
Well, and our lack of tax dollars coming in with all this drama.
Right, exactly. So just being good stewards of Farragut's resources.
We have, as I stated earlier in the financial report, we have already requested another draw on our MOU with the town. So we're not depleting as much because we're not advertising as much. We're not having any expenses going out on any events. So we should be in a pretty good position. I can't tell you how many days cash we have on hand. I probably need to maybe take a look at that and come back to you with that.
Our fixed costs each month is the bulk is really my check, but it's all around $4,500 with the rental on storage, with the computer fees and the storage unit in that. So it's less than 4,500. And with the 17.5 coming in and the 26 that's in the bank, you know, we're half a year. we're in easily get into our June and July with our event, and then there'll be additional cash flow. Then we'll be into another quarter too for our draw. So the final quarter of our draw. So.
Got it. So I guess about 180 days cash on hand, I think is what I heard. And then I guess from going back to the grant from Farragut, and maybe this kind of leads into David, your report. I mean, I know that's already set up and was budgeted, but I guess I'd like to know how tax dollars are doing now. How's the town at cutting costs and remaining fiscal, and does this board need to do anything additional?
Well, I guess that's a good segue if you want me to go ahead and jump in. We had a workshop with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen last Thursday, and we talked through the different revenue scenarios that we kind of see happening over the next few months. We're projected to be under on sales tax revenue by about $468,000 this year, the year that we're in. And that is going from where we thought we were going to be, $400,000 or $500,000 to the good, and now we're going to be about $460,000 under. So our overall revenues, though, because we have some other revenues that came in earlier this year, we're going to be okay from an overall standpoint. But sales tax revenues certainly are taking a major hit. So we want all businesses to get back to work as soon as possible too, so they can obviously start getting sales tax back into the community, and that's what we fund ourselves on. So it's something that we are having to cut back. We're having to look at ways that we can manage our operations this next year without cutting services as best we can. We've added some things this year, frankly, we have to take care of. So we have to probably add some people to take care of some of the things that are coming up this next year. And we're hoping that this is a short-term thing, not a long-term issue. But I think the way we're looking at the budget, we'll be able to get through this next year and be okay by 2021 at the end. So that's something that we have not decided, all those areas that we need to cut back yet, because we really need to figure out what all we need to really get a good handle on, what we need to be providing for next year. So I think in the next few workshops with the board, we will get that narrowed down, and they'll be able to make some decisions about that.
Is there any funding from the feds coming through for small towns?
There is $0 coming from the federal government for any local government under 500,000 people. So when we talk about stimulus packages, and I know a lot of businesses are still waiting to get their checks too. They've applied. Individuals may have started getting some checks recently that could qualify for that. But everybody's waiting for those checks, but we will continue to wait because we're not going to get any. The local governments and state governments, frankly, are some of the ones that aren't getting any funding from this $2 trillion that's out there. The Fed opened up some dollars recently, and it's really more for loans. If somebody needed a loan from a, say, municipal government, needed to go and do something with their bonds and redo their bonds and get them at a lower interest rate. They've got some things in place for that. We don't have bonds, so there's nothing really that we can utilize in that regard. So We're one of those situations where we rely on you guys. We rely on the business community to get out there and do a great job in your local businesses, and we will either do great from that or not. And so right now we're kind of hurting with everybody else in that regard. Any other budget questions at all while we're on this topic before I move on to other things?
I'm good. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah, David, this is Mayor Williams. I think what the underlying question is in the budget process. I think the FBA is overall is concerned about whether they're going to be budgeted for the next fiscal year. I think that was a question that was not asked, but I think implied.
I don't want to put this back on the board of mayor and alderman, but ultimately it's going to be a discussion between me and the board on where we come up with funds for different priorities, and if we have to cut back here or there, wherever it may be, how does that look? And we haven't got that far into it yet. We will start having those discussions in the next week or so, but at this point, I couldn't tell you what that looks like, and I hate to say yes or no one way or the other just because I don't know yet what we can do to kind of cut some costs back.
May I add just a little to that? I know that our Alderman Scott Meyer has been trying to, he's been advocating for a way to support our businesses in the town of Farragut. I'm not entirely sure we have a clear way forward. One of them, and my husband had suggested, was something that we do at during the Shop Farragut, the Christmas event, is we, I don't know if we call it subsidizing the ads, but that might be something we might want to look into with the Shop Farragut program. These are things we need to talk at the board level about, maybe throwing a little bit more funding towards an ad support for our businesses, because that's the first place businesses will cut. It tends to be their marketing and their advertising, and that's where they're going to need a lot of help driving that business back into Farragut and letting everybody know we're open. So that there's an opportunity to explore there that we need to think about, and Shop Farragut and Visit Farragut and coordinating their efforts to highlight that there's once we start opening up, that there's stuff going on in Farragut. So I'm just throwing that out there, that's something that the board will need to talk about, but certainly Shop Farragut and Visit Farragut need to be part of that discussion.
I can attest to the decline in the advertising revenues from our businesses, and our staff is trying to find ways to be supportive of businesses, to share everything that we can possibly share about the businesses. But at the same time, we are a business ourselves, a small business, and trying to find ways to communicate with customers and still express the importance of our customers communicating down the lines to their customers. It's been a real difficult process, and particularly when you're trying to do all this with people working remotely, trying to keep your own staff motivated when 90% of their telephone calls or emails or attempts to communicate with people are going unanswered. I think the local small business owners are in a bit of shock. And the frustrating part of this, I'm not going to get back into a rant, but the frustrating part of this is it's really been from a lack of answers. It's been from a lack of it's been from the financial uncertainty that everyone's facing. Frustrating part about it has been the lack of clarity as to what total essential businesses are, and even to a point where employees that have been furloughed or employees who are stay at home. I don't know what you guys have been observing, but I've been in 5 different communities each and every week, and going through those 5 different communities, it seems like most people are taking it as a true vacation. You know, looking at it from, I'm going to go out and wander and shop. I had a business necessity that had to take place at our transmitter site in Lenore City last week, or earlier this week, I'm sorry, and had a necessity to purchase a part locally for you know, for what was going on inside the transmitter site. It wasn't big enough to call my engineer in. It was something very easy that I could take care of, but couldn't get into any place to purchase the part because of all the lines of the people who were out, you know, doing shopping and doing their you know, their yard spruce up, their you know, adding a new barbecue grill to the deck or whatever. It's very frustrating. So I too am hopeful that there's some clear guidance on April 30th, you know, and going back into how business is going to reopen, and do hope that it comes forward there. But getting back to the original part of this, the advertising side of it, the decline has been phenomenal, and it happened in an overnight process, or in an overnight time period.
Thanks, Tony. Just one last thing from me. Well, a couple things. One is, I know Steve mentioned earlier about the temporary sign, allowing that to go a little longer. April 27th was the original date. I've talked to the board, mayor and alderman. They're all in agreement that we'd like to extend that. So I will be issuing out something today or tomorrow to extend that through May 30th. So that way it gives you guys, and frankly, it gives the businesses that have been closed and hopefully will start reopening some time to get some additional signage out to let people know, hey, we're open now, and get them back in the door. So let's hope that helps out for many of the businesses that are looking to get back in business here. But we will get that out today or tomorrow. And so I'll send that to Steve so he can send it out to his group, his email list, and also to Julie at the chamber so she can get that out. And we'll post it obviously through our contacts here at Town Hall as well. Couple other things is we have a planning commission meeting tonight on WebEx, and so if you're local, you could watch it on the cable channel on Charter or TDS. But if not, we have a couple items that I think would be of interest to the FBA. One is a final plat, which is allowing the Ivy Farms Road, which is right across from the Renaissance. It's all the grading you've seen done over the last probably a year now. They have got the road ready to go and a subdivision in the back of that, which is about 39 lots that will, if the planning commission approves that, they'll be ready to start constructing townhomes back there here shortly. But the front then is a commercial lot. And so what we're hoping is that eventually they'll get some prospects to start doing some commercial activity out there. Obviously in these times, we may have to wait a little longer, but it's all ready to go for somebody to come in and start building on. So that's encouraging. And also we've got a discussion with the planning commission tonight on elevations for the old Kroger property to be redeveloped. And so they've got some pictures and some drawings and some things for the planning commission to look at and get their feedback on if they like the look and feel of what the developer is thinking about doing. And I know that will probably continue through not just this month, but maybe next month on whatever feedback they give them. They'll come back and try to get it right. They've been doing a lot of site work. They've been doing a lot of things, just trying to make sure that what they're thinking about can fit on that site. There's a lot of water issues to deal with there, and so they've been trying to get those handle on that as well. So those are the two big things that they will have on their agenda tonight. There's some other things as well, but with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any more questions, or if the mayor or vice mayor wants to add anything to my discussion, feel free.
Mayor Williams, I have nothing to add. I hope everyone has received what I've sent out that I get from the 10 different sources that send me stuff that maybe part of you don't get. But if it's too much, let me know. I can delete you. So there again, just raise your hand.
I'll add just a little bit to what David was saying about the redevelopment of the Kroger, old Kroger. I believe that this is going to lead to a bigger discussion about the overall goals of the town center district, not just what's going there, because what goes there will impact what we would love to see on the other side on the Ford property and redevelopment. And so be prepared for a bigger discussion than just eventually when we start discussing this. I think we really need to take the overall town center into perspective when we start talking about that. So I just wanted to add that. That's all I had.
I'll expand on that even. I think originally, whenever the town center concept was originated, a lot of people looked at it as something that was a good wish list, excuse me, for the time. And what I think you could probably maybe even get Jim Nixon to expand on this, but some of what we were looking for may not be what developers want to do. So that's something that they need financing. They need tenants to fill the what they build. And the old adage is you have to build what people want. You can't build necessarily what the pie in the sky is for maybe a town. So I think if we look at it from the perspective of that, what the developer can sell, then we need to keep that in mind, because you can ask for a whole lot of stuff, and if they can't sell it, then you won't get it. Pretty simple.
Does anybody else have any questions or things to add?
Just some little good stories. Village Green shopping, the Village Green neighborhood continues a weekly restaurant rescue where everybody gets together and picks one or two Farragut restaurants to supply the neighborhood with meals on a specific day. I'm hoping that Candace's curbside bingo is working out well. And that's another great idea that's been going on. And I think our little businesses, as struggling as they are, they're coming up with ideas that I put out on all of our social media and adding to our COVID web pages on the website. We will not have a meeting next month unless we schedule one. The next meeting is for June on the schedule at this time.
And the only thing I noticed about the meetings is if we are going to go forward with the Taste of Farragut being October 4th, I don't think it's wise that we do not have a meeting scheduled for August and September, both months before the Taste of Farragut event. So do we need to look at changing one of those future meeting dates? I know we've got the Dog Days event. We also have the Health and Wellness Expo, and I think we had some other, the Music Jam or something that we planned on doing. Music Fest. So if we're going to be cramming all of these events in June, July, August, and October, these future meeting dates may need to be adjusted. I'm just throwing that out there.
I would agree with Candace, and my initial thought was just kind of the October meeting, but then we're starting to gear up for the Shop Farragut for the holidays. So we've got a lot coming. We're cramming a lot in. You're right. So we need to be Steve, you need to give some thought to that. How many meetings do you need for what we're trying to achieve in those months?
Well, definitely need a September meeting.
You're breaking up again. You're breaking up again, Steve. I'm sorry, but we can't really hear you.
Because October 15 is after the taste. I think a September meeting is more the October meeting. September meeting in lieu of October. And a May meeting, if the rollout is coming out, but the business is open and what have you, maybe a May meeting is the
Steve, you're breaking up a lot.
the health wellness.
Steve, we cannot hear you. You are breaking up again with your internet feed. I don't know what's going on, but we can't hear you.
Maybe the best option would be for you to put your thoughts in an email, sent out to us so that get your thoughts together, change the dates that you think you need, and we'll go from that in that direction. That way we have clarity. How's that sound, Candace?
I agree with that because I don't mind having more meetings as long as we need them. I just know we've got at least 4 major events going on that are going to take organization and communication. I think adding a campaign such as Farragut's open or we've reopened or some kind of Farragut campaign that all the businesses can jump onto, whether it be Farragut Press, whether it be Tony with the radio, coming up with some kind of campaign to let people know that Farragut's open, if that ends up being May 15th or May 30th, whatever. And then especially, just letting people know the dog groomers and the hair salons and the gyms and just kind of all the stuff that kind of are our backbone. We've got to get the tax dollars back in here. And then we've got the health and wellness. So yeah, we've got a lot of things that we're going to be turning to do in the next, if you look at it, we're going to have something going on every single month. So Steve, I agree. If you could get us some dates with the appropriate meeting for through the end of the year, I think at least I'd be able to get that on my books and make sure that I made a commitment to those meetings, and having the reason for each meeting, I think will make it good for everybody because at least we'll know what we're going to be focusing on and talking about. So.
I did want to make one last mention. Today, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, David, today was the official day of Town of Farragut. 40 years ago, we had our elections and our first Board of Mayor and Aldermen was elected, and we began our governance.
I'm going to ask the town historian Sue Stool to answer that one because I don't know off the top of my head.
So actually, the first board met on April 7th. We just had that question, so we're pretty up to date on that just because the media had asked. So the board was elected on April 1st, and the first board meeting was on April 7th, I believe, at Farragut High School.
I appreciate the correction, Sue, but so here we are, 40 years later, in the middle of a pandemic. Yay us!
Okay, so is there anything else? It looks like we I've gone through all the business and all the plans. I guess we're all going to be on pins and needles waiting to see if Governor Lee does anything differently. I know my restaurant, we are planning on going forward at 50% capacity. We are planning on opening May 1st unless otherwise told. Hopefully it won't be, last minute. I hope everybody is doing okay and everybody's business is doing okay. I send love and encouragements, and I'm just praying that we all get through this the best we can. If there's anything any of us could do for each other, I would appreciate you letting us all know. With that, is there anything else I need to discuss or consider before we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Aye.
And we're out. Thank you guys. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you,
No
everyone.
problem.
Bye,
Bye,
Hey, guys.
Thanks.
See ya.